Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It's been 3 years now since we
Yeah,
last talked.
I feel like we've always talked when we were in school about sometime doing something like this.
Yeah. We used to go to the WeWork every single day, skip class,
True.
work together until the WeWork used to kick us out at like 5, 6 p.m., but we try to stay as long as possible.
But now you're the founder of Affiniti,
Yep.
which is a startup that is onboarding, how's the wording, like traditional small businesses into
Exactly.
the world of modern finance.
Exactly. We're going after small businesses and I like to say the backbone industries of America, the industries that, quite frankly, Silicon Valley overlooks when you talk about HVAC, laundry, laundromats, podiatrists, right, foot and ankle surgeons, community pharmacists. We found this low-hanging fruit that no one could figure out, and here we are today.
But the cool thing is, it's not just that you're building that company. It is, according to what I've heard, one of the fastest growing companies in the space.
Yep.
And your competitors are like Ramp and Brex.
So I like to say we're not actually competing against Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is when you look at the Ramp, the Brex, the Rose, the Arcs of the world, don't get me wrong, great companies, but they're all going after the same 10% of America. Enterprise, mid-market, VCP-backed companies, right? At most, they maybe venture out to e-com, but that's really as big as they get. But the other 90% of the US GDP belongs to these traditional, like you said, traditional small businesses or the backbone industries of America. And these are the foot and ankle surgeons. These are the community pharmacists. Our biggest 5 states are Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, people that Silicon Valley don't go to. But you're right, we are the fastest growing business card in the market, but I think that we're the fastest growing card because we're not competing against anyone else.
That's really interesting. So when you say fastest growing, tell me some of the numbers.
Yeah, so we launched almost 90 days ago now. We launched in early February. The first month that we launched, we hit about 200K of monthly GTV. Not anything impressive.
Okay.
Month 2, we hit 1.25 million.
1.25 million.
In monthly GTV.
Okay.
And now we're entering into the third month. We're closing at 3 million monthly GTV. And to give you some numbers in the market, it took 6 months to hit 2 million in monthly GTV. So, beat that by another 3 months, beat that with a smaller team, a leaner team, and less money in the bank.
Interesting. And so for the audience, not for me, what is GTV?
Gross transaction volume. So how much our customers are spending on their credit cards.
And so what is the actual product that your customers get? Is it credit card?
So we like to say we're providing the full expense management solution. And this is really just the beginning. We want to become the full financial operating system for these traditional SMBs. Right now, we offer a credit card that sits on top of the expense management solution where today they're paying thousands of dollars for very incumbent and more enterprise-focused tech like SAP Concur that doesn't really even suit well for SMBs. They don't need departments. They don't need the automation that Ramp services, right? That's what I mean by we don't want to compete against Ramp and Brex. We're going after this differentiated market. But right now, it's that credit card on the expense management solution. The low-hanging fruit and the deeper, more blue ocean that we see here is the state of traditional SMBs in finance is very fragmented. They're spending tens of thousands of dollars on a bill management solution. They're spending tens of thousands of dollars on manual accounting, a problem that has already been solved by Silicon Valley. So all we're here to do is provide that all-in-one solution to really simplify their life.
One thing that's interesting, and that the audience probably won't know, is that when you were 16 years old, that's when you started at school, you raised $6 million for a crypto payments, like crypto wallet.
Yeah.
And so you started in finance, and I remember, we can talk about it later in the episode, but it had a bit of a shaky launch. And you guys kind of disappeared for 2 years. I remember I came and I met you guys in New York like 2 years ago. You were in this like pivot process, not really knowing exactly what the next step was. And then suddenly you started posting on LinkedIn like a few months ago out of nowhere. And now you're telling me you had 200, 1.25 million, 3 million, whatever. Where did the first 200K in GTV come from?
Yeah, so what we've recognized in the market, and this is the sole reason why people haven't done well in the traditional SMB space, is customer acquisition cost and finding the great customers is the hardest thing in fintech in general, right? How are you spending thousands of dollars, which is the state of credit cards for SMBs right now in fintech, just to get customers that make you back a few $100s? That's I like to say, ZERP environment mindset that doesn't scale your company well. We've recognized this marketing hack where we can leverage existing networks that are much stronger than any network we can build with our resources, and let's use them to get to these traditional SMBs. So what do I mean by that? Trade associations are the single most loyal point in each SMB industry that we can find. These trade associations lobby on behalf of SMBs. They negotiate on behalf of them with insurance companies, with vendors, I would go as far to say they fight for these SMBs. So in return, these SMBs are willing to pay thousands of dollars every single year to proudly call themselves a member of this association. So examples of that would be the National Association of Realtors, the National Association of Community Pharmacists. So what if we let them do what they do best, which is communicate with these SMBs, market towards them, work with them, and we do what we do best, which is build that Silicon Valley level financial technology solution.
So you're not actually marketing to the SMBs. You're marketing to the trade organizations that other existing companies try to be a part of.
Exactly. So we become the fastest growing business credit card in the market with no sales team, no growth team. We haven't bought a single ad for ourselves.
Really?
We don't even use Google or Facebook ads. In fact, we don't have SEO set up on our websites.
That's wild.
All we do is call up these trade associations and introduce this co-branded and customized card solution.
How do you get to them? Because you guys, like you're 19, Sahil's 20, 21, 22, 20. So how do you actually, like when you were in crypto in the past, you didn't really build a network in traditional like trade organizations.
Yeah.
How do you now get in the door of these large financial institutions?
Yeah, so these trade associations aren't actually financial institutions. And that's the arbitrage we have, right?
Okay.
Because if they knew how to do finance so well, they wouldn't need us. In fact, some of these trade associations have tried to create their own credit unions in the past and unfortunately failed pretty miserably. I would say more predictably failed pretty miserably because these are a bunch of people who are specialized in lobbying and negotiating and policy making, but not finance. That's where Sahil and I and Affiniti comes in. We are the financial experts that build them their own association branded credit card solutions sitting on top of this expense management platform.
How do you convince these like 40, 50, 60-year-old people that you as 19, 20-year-old college dropouts can build that?
Yeah, so, Sal and I started by cold calling these associations. We were, I think, cold calling, I would say hundreds of associations every single day. There's 14,000 of them in the US, so it's a huge market. And 66% of every single SMB is part of an association. We started by cold calling, we emailed them, and I think it landed upon the same concept we found in marketing. It's how do we leverage existing networks to tap into the people and the businesses we want versus building our own networks.
How did you do it?
So there's this company called MBNA. They started in the 80s and they launched over 4,000 partners to launch co-branded consumer credit cards. So think, the AAA, the AAA credit card, etc. They built that in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. And guess how much was in their loan book?
How much?
$125 billion loan book, and they sold to Bank of America for $34 billion in cash.
Oh, wow.
In 2004. So you can calculate the inflation rate yourself. But since then, in the '08 financial crisis, BOA let go of these partnerships along with many of their other assets. And there's a lot of executives from MBNA who had personal relationships with these associations for over 20 years looking for a new gig. And lo and behold, Affiniti is here to build MBNA 2.0 plus. I like to say we're making this love child between MBNA, Ramp, and Brex, and bringing it to Midwest and Southern America. So we're working with former MBNA executives who've been in the industry now for 20, 30, 40 years to access their existing networks.
And what was the first person and the first network that you inserted yourself into?
Yeah. So when we first started building this business, I'll give you the founding story a little bit as well.
Okay.
We were looking for ways to empower small businesses because we already realized how underserved they are, but we couldn't figure out why. Brex had 30,000 small business customers on their platform 3 years ago, but 2 years ago, they fired their own customer base. And obviously, they're talking about the high CAC, the average selection, but Sal and I, I like to say we're relentless and we thought we could do it better. So we went to this warehouse in Brooklyn. It's called Jetro.
Okay.
They sell to all the restaurants and grocery stores in New York. And we started pitching this idea to small business owners. They cursed us out in their thick Italian accents.
You've been cursed out by a lot of people on the phone, man. I remember freshman year, he would call up people who were like in the crypto space and he'd be like, I've raised $5 million so far.
I'll tell you that story in like another 5 minutes. I think that's a good story as well. But we got cursed out by these small business owners.
Okay.
And we were thinking to ourselves, man, that's why Enrique and Pedro couldn't figure it out in SMB space. That's why no one in Silicon Valley could figure it out. We're sharing the same problems. It wasn't until serendipitously we met a previous association CEO actually at a wedding. And he was telling us that decades ago, their association was making millions of dollars every single year from none other than MBNA. So that was actually the eye-opener for us. I mean, we're born in 2004, but these people started in the 80s. Of course, we don't know MBNA. Yeah. But when we heard these stories, we started tapping into that network. So, that's how we got started in this more, I like to say, traditional space, in a space where you wouldn't expect some Silicon Valley, UC Berkeley grads to go after.
You say grads?
Not grads, dropouts.
So that's another interesting story.
Yeah.
What I was kind of saying before is like, I remember the way we met was interesting. Sahil and I were in like a Muslims in America like thread. What was it called? Like a GE? It was like a general requirement. Well, I took it like I actually wanted to take it, but that class was filled with just like people trying to get rid of that like requirement that you needed to graduate. So we're in this discussion and the teacher says like, or like not the professor, like the assistant was like, okay, this is like a small class. I want each of you to go around and introduce yourself. Sahil says something about startups. I say something about startups. Like, oh, I want to build a company.
Yeah.
And then one of us come up to the other after class. We get boba. We end up going to like, I don't know. We end up going hang out at my apartment after. And then somehow I got introduced to you through Sahil. And then once I got introduced to you, I remember I just kept hearing stories about you guys. There was a launch thing that you guys had done for almonds because it was called Almonds at the time. And this was like a Web3 wallet that you guys were building. And then a bunch of people went to that. And then people started to hear that you were raising money. I think Odell Beckham Jr. was like on your cap table at one point. And then you guys both dropped out in our freshman year, first semester.
Yeah.
I think you were the first people in our class to have dropped out, or at least everyone like had known had dropped out.
Yeah.
So that was like an interesting, because I was like, these guys dropped out in their first, like we were boys, but like you dropped out in your first semester. Like, why would you?
I remember I convinced you to drop out too. I remember very clearly.
You were like, one day you're going to drop out. I was like, absolutely not.
But here we are.
Here we are.
This is life.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that story actually on why we decided to drop out what led up to that. So Sal and I, we met via the Instagram page for UC Berkeley students.
No way.
Where people could find roommates.
I didn't know that.
The freshman page.
Yeah.
So when we followed each other, we had no intentions other than, I guess, just to follow each other. And one day I posted this NFT on my Instagram story of my username from Autograph, the NFT company backed by Tom Brady.
I know Josh.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I
So
didn't know that.
Sal swiped up and started pitching me on this Stripe for crypto idea. And I instantly told him...
In the Instagram DMs.
I instantly told him, this is not going to work, but I have something better for you. Let's hop on a Discord call, very 2021. And we stayed on that call for 6 to 7 hours. And at the end of the call, I told Sahil, let's incorporate this business today and let's drop out the next day. We only did one of those that day, which is incorporate the business. Okay. He said, let's wait a little bit before we drop out. Since then, this was before even college started. This was like a month or two before college started. Yeah. And we just started building every single day. I remember I was in my room like literally 12, 16 hours every single day just building the company. And we began pitching these VCs. We probably pitched 50 to 100 VCs and the same concern kept popping up. And it's, hey, you guys are 16 and 18 years old. Why would people trust you with a financial depository product?
Sounds like FTX waiting to happen again, to be honest.
So we said, how can we prove these guys wrong?
Okay.
So when we stepped foot on campus, we started cold calling people and saying, we're building this crypto hedge fund. Would you like to Venmo us some money to invest for you? And we'll give you all of the returns back. No 2 on 20, no management fees. We'll give you all the returns.
Yeah.
So we built this, you can call it an illegal crypto hedge fund.
Great. Now the SEC is watching my podcast.
And we had students and we even talked to Uber drivers. We went on Twitter and we were cold DMing people, other founders, other investors. We said, would you like to invest in our crypto hedge fund? And one of the people I cold called was another founder based in New York City. And he said, hey man, I love your ambition. Instead of Venmoing you or Zelling you $50, I'd much rather be your first angel check.
Who was it?
I'll tell you that story another time as well.
Is that has to be offline?
Yeah, I think it's another story.
Okay.
But
actually, is it the lawyer?
Another story.
I'll bleep it, but I need to know.
You're a good journalist. You asked the right questions.
I think I know who you're talking about.
but
You should know who we're talking about.
I know who you're talking about. I remember the stories. Oh my God.
But after he said that,
is he still alive?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
He said, I love your ambition. You're a young founder. I'd much rather be your first angel investor than give you $50. And I said, let's do it. What's the next steps? He said, let's meet in person. I said, I thought you were in New York City. He said, I just booked your flight for tomorrow. So the next morning, Sal and I wake up at like 4 a.m. We BART all the way to SFO. Horrible BART.
That's a horrible from Berkeley, yeah.
Yeah. Horrible train, right? We end up in New York And within 4 weeks, we closed our round. Odell Beckham Jr., the owner of the Sacramento Kings, you name it, a
Really?
long list of fintech investors. But I think the lesson we took out of that is sometimes you just have to prove it. You know, you have to prove the people wrong by actually getting your foot out the door and doing what they said you couldn't instead of sitting around and trying to talk about it over Zoom.
Yeah, I remember being in the room when you called some of these people. I remember one specifically. We were at the WeWork. They were like about to kick us out. And I don't know, one of you guys started cussing each other out. I don't remember who it was. And I'm sitting there, I take my like AirPods out. I'm like, what am I listening to?
That's definitely not me. That's definitely me being cussed out by a solicitation.
Yeah.
But that New York trip, I'll tell you this story as well. It was in the middle of the midterms for, I think, UGBA 1.
Oh, UGBA 10.
UGBA 10, that's the class we were in.
One.
Wait, no, were we in that?
I wasn't in it,
Okay,
but I remember you telling me about it.
But we were in New York, and the UGBA 10 midterms were about to come up in a
This
week.
is like the intro to business class.
Exactly. So we're in New York, we're raising this round, and the UGBA 10 midterms comes up in the next week. Sal and I have tried to book flights back for the last week, and we just kept getting more investor meetings. We had to keep meeting them in person, keep closing these deals. So we said, what's the best idea to get out of the midterm?
Oh no.
None other than
I remember.
COVID. So Sal and I went on, I won't say which telehealth company, and we got this COVID, I guess, prescription, and we sent it to our professors, and that helped us close the round. I'll say that.
I do not condone this.
I don't condone this.
Honestly,
I
do
don't
not
condone
take
this either.
advantage of medical, technical infrastructures.
Yeah, but I'll say this. Sometimes the opportunity cost is worth it, and I wouldn't be in this room with you today, transparently, without going through that journey.
Another thing that's interesting about your story, I remember you guys dropped out and then you moved to New York. Both of you were in like a 2-bedroom, one bedroom. You guys were in like an apartment together, working together. And then 6 months later, you launch. At that time, it wasn't Almonds anymore. It was Pebble.
Yep.
And it was a Web3 wallet. You had a really big launch because it was like, oh, college dropout, $6 million, 16-year-old. Little picture of you standing like this, I remember. And then suddenly, like the day it happens, I remember the craziest like following series of events around eco. Everyone started calling you scammers. The guys from YCs were like, you know, we're kind of like going off on you on Twitter. So what actually happened?
So transparently, nothing happened.
Okay.
There's no cease or desist. There's no legal trouble. There's no financial losses. I'll tell you as it is. If you're a $2 billion company, you've raised over $95 million and you're ran by Ryan Breslow, which at that time was the guy in Silicon Valley.
True.
And you saw these 2 college dropouts build a better product than you, I'd be pretty pissed as well.
Practice that in front of a mirror. I'm about to get dropped into some Twitter beef now. Come on.
I just say it like it is. When you have 5 partners on your platform and we come out with 100, when you have 2 years later, I think, less than of revenue, I would be pretty damn pissed. So that's all that came out of it. And I think the biggest learning, the biggest mistake actually was even building that product in the first place.
Really? Why?
Because there's a reason why we pivoted, right? I'd say pretty logical people. We don't pivot out of emotions. A few months later, we realized 2 main problems with the product itself. Number 1 was adverse selection. People don't really realize this or learn this until they build their first product, especially in financial services. But if you're someone getting a white glove solution from Merrill Lynch, why would you choose a company called Pebble? Why would you deposit your money with 2 college students? There's a reason why that guy decided to angel invest in us versus deposit money with us, because he knows the concept of adverse selection. So the types of customers we were getting on our platform were not the customers that were going to make us the next JP Morgan Chase. They were going to make us, just like as we see here in the non-ZERP environment, another zombie fintech startup. So that was the biggest lesson we learned. But the second lesson we learned, and this is what really makes Affiniti great and why we're the fastest growing card in the market right now with no marketing spend, is how do we build a CAC that actually makes the company profitable and scalable without injecting billions of dollars of VC money. So with us, we were competing against the likes of Chime, SoFi, Dave, other people who are getting the same average selection to see who can buy the most Google ads. That's not a solution that's
It's a race
scales.
to the bottom. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a race to the bottom in fees. It's a race to the bottom in how much you can make off of each customer. So at the end of the day, the CAC and the average selection made the business completely unviable in a long-term lens. So I would say the biggest mistake from the whole Pebble debacle was the fact that we even made the product. And I think what makes Sound, great at what we do is we're pretty self-aware when we mess up. So we realized that mistake and we instantly decided to put our heads together and we built Affiniti from a spreadsheet. We didn't build Affiniti from Figma. We didn't build Affiniti by writing a line of code first. We built it from a spreadsheet.
How?
So first thing we did before even building Affiniti was we mapped out the entire Pebble unit economics on a spreadsheet. And we said, damn, this is not going to work. So we said, what are the levers we can pull to make a fintech extremely profitable, go IPO, go compete against the big boys on Wall Street? And we realized the big problem again is CAC. So how do we solve CAC? That's when we came across this thesis of leveraging existing networks. So we have, I like to say, a negative CAC solution, right? How do we go out in the market and have people to pay us without paying a single cent first? How do we have people use our product without paying for ads? How do we have people raving about us and referring them to their entire industry without having to buy a billboard?
And that's where the trade organizations came in.
Exactly.
So you went and you joined forces with the gatekeepers, basically.
Exactly. And I like to say it like this. There's a bunch of Stanford GSBs who like rolling up plumbing businesses in Arkansas. But where's the founder market fit? What do they actually know about building a business in Midwest America? What do they actually know about operating in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, the states we operate in? Sal and I are one of the only few founders in Silicon Valley who realize we don't have founder market fit with the backbone industries of America. So what we decided to do was partner with the people with that market fit. These association CEOs have been in the industry for 40, 50 years. They're gray-haired, they're industry veterans. They represent the industry when they go out on stage. Sal and I never show our face when we advertise the product. They don't know us as Aaron and Sal, they know us as the association MasterCard that's being endorsed by these industry veterans.
What problems have come up? Has any problems come up around your guys' age or people figuring out who you are?
At the end of the day, the product speaks for itself. In the industry we're playing in, and I think this is pretty mind-blowing, you won't believe it either until I show you. We're pitching an association, and they wanted to see a product demo. Sal and I were the ones doing the product demo. And we said, hey, when you upload a receipt onto our dashboard, your CFO can see it. They said, no way. How does that happen? And we were like, what credit card do you use? They said the Diners Club International. Mind you, they have $8 million of assets. They're spending $1 million on credit cards a year. And yeah, exactly. I don't know what that is either until I searched it up. And we said, yeah, this is the magic of our platform. And they said, how do you do that? We said, we use the cloud. And they were like, the cloud? Oh my God. And next thing you know, they signed a contract. They're using the credit card. We penetrated over 2% of their industry. And here we are today. So I think we're at a stage where the product is speaking for itself because, again, I bring this back to the first point I made, because we're not competing against Silicon Valley. The people that we're going after haven't seen the Ramps and Brex of the world. Ramp and Brex isn't going after them in the first place. So with us, we're providing a novel solution, even though it isn't novel to you and I. I'll tell you another anecdote. We were shipping a credit card to one of our customers. And they called me and they said, hey, the card got returned. Can you check the shipping address? And I said, shipping address is fine. Let me just use USPS instead of UPS. I searched up the town that they're in. Their population is 936. I searched up the business they run. It's literally in a ghost town. But mind you, they're making $1 million of revenue a year. That's better than most startups in Silicon Valley.
Where does the revenue come from for them?
Because they're finding this untapped market again. In SF, you're competing against 100 pharmacists. You're competing against 100 doctors. In that town, they're the only shop within like a 50-mile radius.
Interesting.
And that's the part of America Silicon Valley isn't going after. In fact, I'd argue they don't even understand or realize how valuable it is. The average business on our platform is making over $4 million in annual revenue. That's more than a lot of Series A companies, maybe Series B companies if you go look 2 years back. So yeah.
You clearly have an understanding of the SMB market in the Midwest. One thing we like to do here at Effing is we like to start companies from scratch. And so I'm going to ask you, what are some of the best other opportunities outside of finance that you see being like on the table for anyone that comes from SF, comes from Silicon Valley, has an understanding of tech, SaaS, all that stuff, but to like the market that you guys currently sell to?
Yeah. So one thing I want to caveat first actually is I don't have as great of an understanding of the Midwest market as the association execs do. So something we do with every single partner we sign is we actually sit down with their entire board and we ask them, what do your members need the most? What are the problems you're facing in that industry? And why are we the ones to do it and help you guys out?
Do they really have good answers though? I feel like anytime you go up to someone and you ask them what is your biggest problem, they're not going to give you the real problem.
I think when you're getting paid $1,000 annual membership fee to figure out problems for your members, they always have the answers. These people have been around for hundreds of years. One of our partners was incorporated in 1809. And all they do every single day is talk to their members. They survey them on an annual, maybe quarterly basis. One of our partners sent us a 150-page survey on the state of financial services in that industry.
Oh, wow.
I know everything from the merchant they spend on, what their preferences are for banking and checking. It's all in that 150-page document that I would never know without working with these industry experts. All of the problems they're facing from a day-to-day perspective, obviously there's more nuanced ones, have already been solved by founders in Silicon Valley, have already been tackled by founders in New York City, but they just haven't been accessed by Midwest and Southern America. For example, very simple SaaS tools like FP&A, right? In Silicon Valley, I think we have dozens of these companies calculating
your FP&A?
Financial planning and analysis.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so in Silicon Valley, you have dozens of these companies calculating your runway, right? Projecting your burn rate. We had a customer send in a P&L where they accidentally burned $130,000 on bank fees.
How?
Because they just don't have insight into their financial planning and analysis. They don't have the FP&A tools that we do here in California and Silicon Valley. So my point being, us sitting here in this room and really everyone in this entire office building has a unique insight and learning and access to technology that simply needs to be brought to the other 90% of America. And that's really what Affiniti is here to do, right? We haven't invented anything new from a technological perspective. Yes, we're building great tech. Yes, we're building great product, but we're not here to take credit for that. We're here to take credit for bringing amazing Silicon Valley technology to the other 90% of America and finally giving them access after a 20-year drought.
He definitely practiced that in front of a mirror. Tell me, did he? It's like, there's like no way you haven't like word for word said that exact same thing at least like 20 times.
That's part of the fundraising season.
Okay, so where are you guys in fundraising right now?
Yeah, so we're actually raising our Series A as we speak.
No way, already?
I think, we're in a position where we're high leverage. In a lot of the fintech companies and really tech companies I've seen coming out of the ZERP environment, they're zombie companies. They're running out of runway. I have a lot of empathy actually for the founders and team, and I hope they do really well. But we're in a position where we don't need to raise. We're growing already as the fastest growing card in the market. We have millions of dollars in the bank. We are a super lean team. That's always a philosophy we abide by. We have 5 people doing all of this.
Is Faisal still on the team?
No, he's not.
Damn.
He's a crypto maxi.
Okay.
So the moment we left crypto, he
was out.
He said, "Hey, can you refer me to another crypto company?"
Nice.
Great guy though. I love him. He's in the UAE still.
That's my homie.
Yeah. Did you meet him?
No.
Oh.
I just liked him.
Yeah.
I saw him on a Zoom call once in your room. I was like, oh, I know.
Yeah,
that guy.
he's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. He also dropped out. He dropped out of Waterloo.
Dude, I thought he was like 30. I'm not gonna lie.
No, he is. He is 30. He's been dropped out for like 10 years.
Oh, okay. All that aside, why are you fundraising now? Series A feels kind of fast.
Yeah, so I think it's a matter of growth, right? We're in a business where it's a power law game. If you look at any other credit card business or fintech business, when do they become extremely strong, profitable, like a SoFi on the public markets? It's when they reach scale. That's just the nature of the business we're playing in. We're uniquely positioned because no other fintech can reach scale as cheaply and as quickly as Affiniti. Every other fintech to become the next SoFi, to go to the public markets and reach this amazing multiple, they have to buy Google ads, right? It goes back to that saying. They have to show up, they have to knock on doors, they have to beg that they don't get average selection. Sal and I sit back and we have the Slack channel where applications roll in. Every single day when we're eating lunch, 10 more applications roll in. When we're eating dinner, 10 more roll in. And we're like, hey man, where's our sales team? Oh, we didn't even hire one yet. So when you talk about why we raise, right? Okay. Going back to that question, this business is going to be extremely profitable as soon as we reach scale. There's a reason why MBNA got bought by Bank of America for $34 billion. The public markets recognize how amazing this business is. KKR, BlackRock, Blackstone, they all understand credit cards like no other. This isn't Scale AI. This isn't Open AI. We're not building something from the ground up. Again, our innovation is making great tech and giving it to the people who haven't accessed it.
Distribution aspect of it.
It's the distribution of amazing technology. So for us, we're raising this round so we can continue to scale. We can continue being the fastest growing card in the market. And as soon as we reach that stage where we can be the next SoFi, profits start rolling in.
So then I'm going to ask you a question I'm sure other investors have asked you or potential investors have asked you. What is stopping Brex or Ramp from, with all of their experience and their existing client base and their status in the industry, from just running after the same guys that you guys are running after right now and setting up contracts with all of these exact trade organizations?
That's a great question. So I'd break it down into two parts about their product: the card aspect and the actual platform aspect.
Okay.
A lot of people in Silicon Valley don't know this, but Brex and Ramp are not credit cards. They're charge cards. That means you have to pay them back every 30 days or else your line gets cut. And most importantly, for small businesses, they underwrite you based on cash flow. I'm not sure if you ever signed up for Brex and Ramp, but they ask you how much money you've raised, how are you funded, who are your VCs. In fact, if you go through the manual underwriting flow, they even go to PitchBooks or Crunchbase and they look at your fundraising history. They make you connect your Plaid account. All of that doesn't work when you're working with a mom and pop podiatrist in Arkansas, right? So for us, our product is structured completely different from ground one. We're a revolving small business credit card. We recognize the need for traditional America that they can't predict their cash flows like a VC-backed company. You know, your runway is going to be the same every single month because you have $10 million in the bank.
I do.
These podiatrists are self-funded. These entrepreneurs, I respect them even more than you and I, transparently, because they never raised VC money. They've never raised PE money. They use their own parents' money and their own money to build a business that's cash flow based, and they can't get underwritten based on what Ramp and Brex does. If they connect their bank account, Ramp and Brex is going to give them like a $50 line, maybe a few $1,000s. But these doctors get paid back by insurance every 60 to 90 days. So our product construct is completely different. We recognize the cash flow needs. We recognize the revenue cycles are different. So that's number one. We're a revolving credit card. Brex and Ramp and everyone else in Silicon Valley is a charge card. One more note on that before I go to point two. We tried pitching a charge card before.
Okay.
Because it's easier to build. There's banking as a service solutions. Everyone in Silicon Valley has done it. It's the easy way out. But when we pitched it to small businesses, you can guess it, we got cursed out again. And the reason why is they said, how the hell can I pay you back in 30 days when my insurance pays me back in 60? How the hell can I predict my cash flows so you can underwrite me when I don't know what my cash flow is for the next month? So again, we take underwriting very differently and we take the product very differently. But number two on the platform, you know, what Ramp pitches you today, I'm not sure how many Ramp ads you get. I know they're really great at marketing. They're pitching towards corporate America. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why they sponsored players in the Masters, right? The golf tournament.
True.
They're pitching towards mid-market PE-backed companies. So they have procurement, they have, you know, automation for invoicing, for APAR, et cetera. Small business owners have a very different subset of needs, right? So with us, we're building a completely different platform. We're focused on their checking account, their banking account, their card management for their 5 to 10 person team. You know, it's very saddening when you look at the state of small business finance. The average APY they're making is less than 0.25%. Note that as we record this today, the Fed fund rates are over 5%, right? So for these traditional SMBs, they don't have a CFO that's super sophisticated in treasury management like the Ramp users do. So the opportunity for Affiniti to come in is to automate all of that instead of the more nuanced solutions that Ramp and Brex provides. So in summary, our card product is different, which is our wedge into the market, but much more broader, our platform is completely different as well.
That was a solid answer. They're raising right now, Aaron at affinity.finance. What's your actual domain?
Aaron at affinity.finance. That was a great plug. That was a great plug.
That's wild.
Yeah, good guess.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, you and Sahil have a very interesting kind of dynamic because we've seen a lot of people, even from like when like our friend group back when we were in school, of people that tried to start companies together, and or even people that just tried to live together and it just did not work out. But you guys both kind of like burned your boats together and that you dropped out together. You lived together while everything wasn't working, while TechCrunch was like calling you guys scammers, while everything was happening, while you were pivoting your product, all throughout all of that. And then once things started to work again, you guys still live together?
Yeah, in New York.
Same place?
No, we moved.
You upgraded a little bit.
I will say our first place was getting centipede infestations. So there's a slight upgrade from that.
I would hope so. I'm glad for you guys made it out.
Yeah.
But how is the dynamic work such that you haven't tried to kill each other yet?
I think at the end of the day, when you're hyper-focused on one goal, and I think Steve Jobs said this very well. I don't have the exact quote. We can search it up.
You didn't practice this one in front of a mirror?
I didn't practice this one in front of a mirror. But at the end of the day, when you're all hyper focused on one vision, one goal, you're going to do whatever it takes to reach that. I like to describe this as the Golden State Warriors, right? Or the big three from the Miami Heat.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if Dwayne Wade and LeBron James got into an argument. They see the championship in sight. And for us, it doesn't matter if, we're pivoting the company or if the first one didn't work out, we found out CAC was too high. We realized what makes a championship team is the people and not the idea.
Fire.
So from day one, there's a reason why we incorporated the business the same day we met. There's a reason why we dropped out together. There's a reason why we pivoted together. Because it's not about the idea. We know it's the team that makes the dream happen. So as we sit here today, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're probably just a few steps away. And I like to say this is blocking and tackling and not rocket ship building. In more layman's words, this is execution and not a dream.
Yeah. I should have practiced my own lines for me. I don't know what to say. So I'm going to end this off with the question that I ask everyone. If you were to do this podcast again with me in a couple of years, or in 1 year exactly, what would you have want to accomplish by then to consider the last year a success?
So right now, we have 17 of these association partners.
Okay.
They represent over 2 million small businesses. And every single day, I go to sleep, I'd say pissed off about how unfortunate they are that they don't have access to products like what we have. Sal and I stopped doing any accounting, not because we don't care about the finances, but because existing technology solves that problem for us. Our 17 partners, our 2 million small businesses don't have that access. They're wasting hundreds of hours. They're already busy business owners who are spending thousands of dollars on things they don't need to do. A year from now, we want to confidently tell you that we've serviced all 17 associations, that these 2 million small businesses in traditional America and the backbone industries of America have finally got their headaches solved. I like to say they're in a drought and they're wishing well. So it's just a matter of distribution here.
Fire. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome.